Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
Whoa.
And I'm Daniel.
What
Well, we
happened?
no, just your mic.
Oh,
We had the displeasure of finishing the Apple TV Plus exclusive show Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. A couple weeks ago, Craig and I covered the first 5 episodes, and essentially, to summarize, we didn't like the show at all. And my theory about Lee Shaw was right, it turns out, because anyone with a modicum of intelligence could figure that one out. It wasn't really a mystery. So we're going to be covering episodes 6 through 10 in this episode. And let's just get into it. Fellas, what did you think of the rest of Monarch Legacy of Monsters?
terrible. What a waste of time.
Okay, Daniel.
I absolutely hated this.
Yeah, this show is complete trash. I think I think I don't want to repeat what Craig and I said a bunch of times, but they didn't watch Kong Skull Island. I think Craig said they only watched the action scenes. They didn't watch anything else. It ruins the timeline of the MonsterVerse. Nothing makes sense. And we'll get into the ending. And they shoehorn Kong in for whatever dumb reason at the end. But I think the problem with these shows is, well, first off, let me just say that I hate media that tries to fill in the gaps that are just like useless. And what I mean by that is, I want to talk about Rogue One real quick. That movie is completely unnecessary. It tries to tell you the backstory, oh, how they got the plans or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know they get them. You don't need a movie. And in this case too, like,
Actually, I'm gonna stop you right there.
oh,
They tell you they get them in the opening credit,
well, yes,
like the opening scene. Like they tell you
episode
they get the
4. Yeah, yeah.
plans.
It's a completely irrelevant movie. You don't need it. And I feel like with this show, you really don't need it too much. And I think the problem also is that it directly contradicts what Monarch is in the other movies. And it's so baffling how they could screw that up so easily.
Well, essentially, it contradicts everything that's been established, not just Monarch.
Well, yeah, but it is just it
Yeah.
is almost comical how they screwed this up so to this degree. It is so funny and depressing. Craig, why don't you give us a brief synopsis and then pick up where we left off on episode 5, or after episode 5.
What happened to episode 5?
I believe. Let me pull
Okay,
up
well,
my.
I want to start with so I don't know exactly where we left off, but I remember I don't know if it was 6 or 7. We have the May standalone episode to learn all about her backstory, which I arguably the worst episode in the show. And then
Yes.
eventually they go to the Hollow Earth, and then we figure out what Hiroshi was doing. We figure out Lee's now he has a plan to help Godzilla all of a sudden, and then we learn about all this stuff in the monster in the Hollow Earth, which contradicts everything we know, as of course it does. And then we end on a cliffhanger with they wake up in Skull Island and Kong appears.
Well,
Ooh,
Craig, they were gone for 2 years, it turns out, because they're in what's called the Axis Mundi. And we were talking about this off, like, not on the podcast, obviously, but behind the scenes. And
behind the scenes, we're just talking to each other.
yeah, well, what we're trying to understand,
The
I think,
podcast commentary.
from my understanding, the Axis Mundi is an in between of Earth and the Hollow Earth.
I know what you're saying, but every time I look it up, everyone keeps saying
It's
no,
the
they
Hollow
went to the
Earth.
Hollow Earth.
Okay,
That's
because
why I'm confused because, like I said, she's saying, but again, she doesn't have a full understanding of it, so I can't take her word for it. She's only there for, 2 months, basically.
yeah, she said like 50 something days. She thinks she's been there. Turns out she's been there since 1959, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then it turns out that Shaw, with Kurt Russell, or Kurt Russell's son, he went on some expedition to the Hollow Earth in 1962, and he didn't come back 20 years later, essentially, in 1982. And again, in what's it called? In Kong Skull Island, it was a theory. It was an entire theory about
Yeah.
the Hollow Earth. That Houston
That's why
Brooks.
they were dropping
There
those
was a
napalm.
fringe theory.
Yeah, a fringe
Yeah.
theory, and Randa believed him enough, and yeah, that's why they're dropping those bombs because then they got the readings and they said the bedrock is hollow, and Randa was happy to hear that. They don't know what the hollow Earth is prior to 1962. Now all of a sudden they or 1973, and all of a sudden they already knew about it beforehand. Lazy,
Yeah.
lazy, stupid writing, contradictory writing.
Well,
Well,
again,
the
that's the
best
big
part
thing.
too. Well, in the not to jump ahead in the episodes, but
Then
when
don't do it.
no, but when Keiko and Shaw were talking, and he goes, he did it. He was right. Um he went to Skull Island one next to prove his theory. I'm like, what do you mean prove his theory? He was there in 1962 when you dropped into the Hollow Earth. Like, what is he trying to prove? And also, like, what are like now thinking back, like what would explosives do if the Hollow Earth needs a Titan to get through a portal? What are you gonna prove with bombing?
But again, well, I know what you're saying, how it doesn't make sense, but this is just the contradictory nature of the story and like all the stuff they're telling us. That now it's portals that apparently they're going to a different dimension now. That's what they're making it sound like. They're not going into the Earth. They're going into a different dimension that just looks like inside the Earth.
Did you touch the settings in your microphone?
Yeah, I thought he got like quieter too.
What happened?
Well, now you're back.
Oh,
When you just started talking, you like sounded very far away from your mic.
okay. Basically, what I was saying was,
Yes,
Yeah.
continue, Craig. Sorry.
yeah, that like you were saying, that we saw them open a rift, but now they're making each all these changes. Now it seems like that the Hollow Earth is not inside the Earth; it's a different dimension they go to
Which
that just looks like it's inside the Earth.
which directly contradicts Godzilla vs Kong, which contradicts itself because they take a portal. Because in that movie they made a point where they needed a Titan to guide them to the Hollow Earth for whatever dumb reason. Because they said they all Titans have like birds, right? It's like
Oh
a
yeah, it's like it
homing
was in their
signal.
DNA. They know
It's like
Yeah,
a
to.
homing, yeah.
yeah. It's like birds and whatnot, and they know where to go by instinct to the Hollow Earth. That's why they needed Kong to get them out there, and then they go into a portal. And then later on in the movie, we talked about this a couple years ago when we talked about Godzilla vs Kong. It made no sense. Godzilla just shoots a hole through the Earth to the throne room Kong is in, and then they climb up.
And also, to get into the Hollow Earth, they need those special flying ships now that they have, where it can stabilize the gravity, whatever, blah blah blah. And in Monarch, it's like, yeah, they're fine. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just if you're trying to build a universe, those little things matter. The consistency matters,
It's not even
and
a little thing. These are major plot
well,
points. Like, it's a
yeah,
plot point in these movies and these shows
Like
that they
because
can't go. Now they can go.
yeah, because they're trying to sell you on like, oh, now it's a portal, but they can't even get it right. You know what this writing feels like? Like looking back on the whole series, it sounds like after every episode they didn't like the idea of the previous episode, so they're trying to like rewrite it like in each episode, but they kept like, no, we don't like that, so we're just gonna do this now. Like nothing, like it was just like they're trying to course correct horrible ideas with more horrible ideas.
so if the Hollow Earth can age people, then how come our heroes weren't aged in Godzilla King of the Monsters, or at least not aged, but like time is different? Because they went into the Hollow Earth. They
Yeah,
literally
and there was no
did.
time dilation.
That's where Godzilla's lair was, and in that movie, the Hollow Earth was like they got sucked into the Hollow Earth by a vortex, an underwater vortex. That's how they ended in Godzilla's lair, and they even made a point in the movie to say that's how Godzilla gets around so fast in the world. He just uses the Hollow Earth.
Yeah,
But I,
it's more like an intricate tunnel system that takes you into the deeper parts of the earth.
Yeah,
That's how the
which
Titans can
made
move
more
around.
sense, which is what I remember we did the Godzilla vs Kong review and like how Hollow Earth's like all this stuff and like it doesn't really make any sense. That's why I like the King of the Monsters one. It was more subtle, and I think they're just going like bonkers now. Now it's basically a pocket dimension inside
Yeah,
the Earth.
cause Kong Skull Island did a nice, it did a nice introduction. It touched on it where it's possible, it's the Earth. There possibly it's deeper than what it seems, and it allows for all these monsters to hide within it and just move around. And then King of the Monsters just elaborated more on that. Just There's deeper parts of the earth that they can move around, and that's how they've stayed on Earth, like going thousands of years without being like really seen.
Well, and I think they talked about it too, where I think it was 2014 or 2019 where they said, there was more radiation down there. That's kind of why they stay down there and don't come up anymore. But
Yeah,
our radiation testing has brought them back up.
Probably
yeah.
2014.
Well, also too, so what was the point of then like another thing is like all the Titans that come out of the Hollow Earth and go into it, like they all seem active. So like what happened with all these other Titans? They just came out of the Hollow Earth and were just sleeping on Earth for thousands of years, just lay dormant.
I don't know. I didn't understand why they needed a Titan to open the portal. That was really dumb.
Yeah, I know
In
they
the
don't.
Axis Mundi, they needed a Titan to open it, and that's why they had those, like, essentially like those bombs, like a nuclear bomb looked like, to lure the monsters in to open the portal. It made no sense. I didn't really understand what was going on.
Well, again, because they're part of the problem is they're contradicting everything we know about the universe just for this stupid tie-in show.
Well, I told you guys this. The Hollow Earth is what the screenwriters want it to be. It has no like ground rules. It's just whatever the different writing team feels like it is.
Yeah,
Well,
It's
what's
this
not.
is the
usually
pro well, this is the problem when you have multiverse style of like elements to your story because then it's like there's no like you can do whatever. There's no like, oh, you have to ground it in something. It's like, well, it's multiverse, you just open a portal and there's no rules.
which is usually the sign of like a dying franchise, but whatever.
Yeah, that's a sign of desperation, or we're out of ideas.
Yeah. Well, and then the another thing they add in for no reason whatsoever was Apex.
Yes, I want to get to that real quick before you say anything, Daniel. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, which takes place in 2019.
Yes.
And by the way, in 2019, the people of Monarch said like Godzilla's been missing, and they've been watching him at Castle Bravo, and that's where he's been like hanging around. And now all of a sudden he's like visiting underground portals in the Hollow Earth in
Well,
this
also he's
show.
hiding in the Sahara apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I forgot
which
about that.
Well, which
yeah,
is stupid because he's an aquatic
and
creature. Why would he hide? Why would an aquatic creature hide in the desert?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, besides that, that's very dumb. They even said very quickly that Skull Island is a Monarch outpost. What is Apex doing there?
Well, Colin, that's for season two. We'll learn all about Apex in season two, and we'll have May be the main character because everyone loves May so much.
Yeah, whatever. Because we know Godzilla vs Kong takes place in 2024 because Walter Simmons says 10 years ago Godzilla was discovered and whatnot.
these are dangerous
So
times.
we know that. It makes like why is Apex on Skull Island when it was already destabilized?
Well, also
Like
too
I said,
with
that was
good
a Monarch outpost. It even says it's a Monarch outpost in Godzilla vs Kong.
Unless they take over at some point, because Apex, I don't know.
because man is the apex predator. Well, no, but didn't so well wasn't Apex in in Godzilla vs Kong? Wasn't Apex a separate entity? Like it had no affiliation with Monarch.
Yeah, they're literally a robotics industry beforehand.
Is that actually what they were?
Yeah, because like there's I rewatched some of the beginning of Godzilla vs Kong, and they had that like video of big tech, and they're showing off like, oh, what we are, and it had like limbs for people and stuff, and AI technology and stuff like that.
But now apparently they bought out Monarch and have been essentially
Corporate
been
takeover?
yeah have been had took them over since 2017. So they were running them for 7 years.
Well, I
I
don't know
don't,
about that. I mean, I imagine they probably,
I don't think they're running it. They're just like,
maybe they built a facility, then Monarch took over. I don't know. Yeah, obviously, we don't know, but this is what we have to guess because they don't tell us anything. They're just like making stuff up as they go along.
Uh,
I think also, let's get this out of the way. A lot of people are saying like, well, Godzilla's not in the show a lot, and that is very true. He's barely. I think he has like 4 minutes throughout 10 episodes.
Yeah,
And
I
the
It's
saw the
less than
video. It was
to
like
be
it's
one
less
fair,
than
and
a
a half
one.
minutes.
Yeah.
it's not about him really. It's more about the aftermath of G-Day. But it's like false advertising because Godzilla's on every poster of the show. It really should have just been a poster of those three and Kurt Russell, honestly. Godzilla's not in the show. He's barely in it.
But see, I would have been okay with that if they at least had other Titans in the
Yeah,
show. And
they didn't.
I
That
don't
would.
mean like Rodan or Kong. I mean, if they were in the 50s investigating Titans and kind of figuring like, maybe instead of killing these creatures, we can like learn to understand them and all that stuff. Like kind of, how Monarch was founded, on that they believe in Titans, all that stuff, like how they came to that belief as opposed to just, oh, here's like 5 minutes of Godzilla to keep you watching the show because Apple TV is like desperate for viewers.
Well, we talked about this last time on Monarch also was it like the government does not know too much about Godzilla. I mean, yes, they said the tests were there to kill Godzilla, but Randa himself never implied in Kong Skull Island that he saw Godzilla, or like he was like actually there when the bomb happened. He said he saw something that attacked him, and he was the only survivor of the Lawton. So it's implied that it was Godzilla, which it is definitely.
Oh, it
But we,
makes sense. He's big enough, under like you'd be like they're in the boat, Godzilla
yeah,
rams into the boat unintentionally, and then all that stuff happens.
Yeah, because weren't there
but it
like
wasn't
claw
ever
marks
that
on the boat too?
obvious.
Yeah.
Where he
Yeah.
saw Godzilla rise out of the water and then get hit in the face with a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, shrug it off like nothing happened.
Because like everybody in Kong Skull Island was treating Randa as like a crazy guy. They're
Well,
like,
he literally
oh
said
no, here's this
well,
guy again. How'd you let him in?
well, he literally said to when Samuel Jackson, when they were sitting down after calling down to all the choppers and they're regrouping, he pulls the gun on him, and Samuel Jackson's like trying to figure out like what the hell's on the island, like what they're doing there, and then Randa says the line of like, yesterday I was a crackpot, like, but now monsters exist, like, so even he like that moment he came to the realization his theory was true. Everything that he up to like for 20 years he was right. And that's where he tells the story of the Lawton.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
This show's
apparently,
just
so
trash.
apparently, so apparently, he got dementia in those 20 years from the show to when he went to school.
He got
Uh,
dementia and he aged absolutely terrible, terribly.
like his entire character, like they should have kept Shaw and Keiko, whatever. But Randa should have. There should have just been no reason for him to have been there, unless it was like at the end of the show, if they kind of like he comes on late, after all this, like. But they should have never had him because now you have all this terrible retconning, which just makes no sense, contradicts everything.
Sounds like you're just a hater. That's all I'm just gonna say.
And that's on the part of that's on the better part of the cast. I haven't even mentioned the horrible main characters.
Yeah, I hate Kate. She is terrible. I think the biggest problem is that, especially in the last couple episodes, she seems to know a lot more than a lot of people, and she's a school teacher. No offense to public educators, but
Oh, I mean full offense.
you do not know more than scientists who this is their field. You do not know more than them, and I
I
think
want to
it's
correct
very
you.
uh,
She's not just a public school teacher. She teaches little children, where you don't really
well,
have to know
yeah,
much to
that
teach
too.
children.
But I think what's so strange is that they don't know what to portray her as. Is she a victim? Or no, she's so traumatized by Godzilla, but now all of a sudden she's brave. It's like, which one is it? Is she supposed
Well,
to
she
be?
looked Godzilla in the eyes and she understood him. They had the instant connection.
Well, they already did that in King of the Monsters.
Well, I bring that up because I forget what episode it was, 8, 9, whatever. That Lee Shaw said, "You looked him in the eyes. You knew what you saw him in the eyes. You know what he means, who he stands for, and stuff like that." I don't understand how you could come to that conclusion by looking Godzilla in the eyes.
Apparently, he did, or she did.
Yeah, she like got this like hidden like her third eye open and got all this extra knowledge.
But yeah, she's a school teacher. She's a elementary school teacher. How about that? She knows nothing. They should not have been listening to her. I thought the how they figure out. I forget what it was with the map that was in the wall. Remember how they go into
I
San Francisco and they
think that was the fifth episode,
that was
fourth or
so
fifth.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
How they figured that out. Trying to think of other
Well,
things. Oh, so the whole show revolves around trying to find their father Hiroshi, who is a scumbag, cheater father. He's a deadbeat. He's trying to do other things, but he has two families that the others don't know about. And what's so weird is that they had Kate do the same thing where she was cheating on her girlfriend with another girl.
Yeah, we kind of just brushed past that. It's like, yeah, she's
Yeah,
a bad person,
it's
but
like,
she's our
what are you
protagonist.
doing?
If we're
She
gonna
can't
like
be
dump
too
on
mad at her dad for that then. Like, she's just a hypocrite.
if we're gonna dump on Hiroshi, can we also talk about the fact that when he saw them in the desert, he sees them. He knows that it's them, and he immediately tells them to go away. Godzilla wakes up, chaos ensues, doesn't bother to check on them at all.
Yeah.
No concern for them. And when he finally comes back, he shows up in his office in Tokyo and is like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" It's like,
It's the
people thought you
most
were dead for
it's
a
the most
year.
casual
and the
conversation.
and then when Kentaro, like, because he's under the assumption Kate died, and he tells Hiroshi acts like he was father of the year and he just lost his prized child. Like he's like
Well,
weeping, like you're a scumbag.
I got a huge kick out of the fact that he said, "Oh, you weren't supposed to know about your sister." It's like, really?
Could have figured that one out.
I think you're a little late on that one, buddy. I couldn't get over the fact that I remember I predicted that his whole story would lead to nothing and be a huge waste of time. And of course we were right. Because he shows up and it's like, oh,
Well,
oh hey
no,
guys.
Craig.
It
Well,
was
no,
very
Craig.
anticlimactic.
He got reunited with his mom. All right. He abandoned his kids and had two families on the different sides of the world so he could eventually get reunited with his
So
mom and all
let's
as
talk
well.
about what Hiroshi was really doing.
Wait, one more thing I want to dump on Hiroshi for.
Yes, go for it.
So in 1982 when Shaw comes back,
Yeah.
Hiroshi is so mad at him for disappearing for 20 years that he had no control over that he throws him into a retirement home for like 40 years or 30 years.
Like,
What a
I
loser.
I could understand Hiroshi being angry at his own father for doing the Skull Island thing and kind of essentially like it seemed like he became recluse from his son because of the mom's like death and his work.
And
But
shit,
like
like Lee disappearing too.
yeah, but like Lee literally got sucked into another dimension and his mom got taken away from like got carried into the Hollow Earth by these like bug things. So like I understand him being mad at Bill at his father, but like Lee and literally his mom got sucked into another world.
Well, and Lee, it's not like he came back, he said he was gone for a week and then he
He was
comes
gone
back
for
20.
20 years.
Well, no, I'm
Yeah.
saying, but he comes back 20 years later and then this guy's like holding a grudge. It's like, I've been gone for only a week. I know it's been 20 years, but I haven't been gone that long. And he like basically, hates him, curses him, wishes he was dead and throws him to a retirement home for 30 years, which is another thing too. I don't get why after Shaw's character of all like the fighting he would do, like, trying to finagle his higher ups. He just says, "Oh, well, I guess I'll just stay in this retirement home for 30 years and not try to fight it all."
Well, another thing too is when they revealed that I was thinking back of when the Three Stooges broke him out of the retirement
Wait,
home.
before you continue, Daniel, I must understand why Lee seeing Godzilla was his call to action because he knew Godzilla was out there. He was present at the nuclear bombing of Godzilla. He saw Godzilla after that. He knew Godzilla survived. Why was he so shocked?
He's been to the Hollow Earth. I mean, what more could he possibly know?
Yeah, why was he so shocked that Godzilla was back?
Well, no, to add on to your point, Colin, because it contradicts earlier what was established with him and when he met the kids, is because he made it like I was waiting for you guys to break me out, like this whole made no sense. Um, but then it wasn't that he was waiting for them to break it out, is he was just taking drugs for 40 years and numbingly sitting on the couch, like. So it wasn't like he was been waiting this whole time for Hiroshi's kids to break him out, which is weird to begin with, but it's
Yeah,
just
considering their relationship.
yeah. Like he made it seem like when he met them too, like, oh, yeah, I knew your father. Like you hadn't spoken to the guy in 40 years. Like he dumped you in a retirement home. Or 30 years, my bad.
I'm just gonna say it. The show's not well written.
But yeah, the characterizations, all these reveals at the end of the show just make me angry because they're stupid and they just solve nothing. In fact, they create more questions, not in a good way. They create questions where you're like, okay, well, now why is this guy doing this? I don't understand. Like his entire characterization up until this point makes no sense why he would do that.
How's your microphone doing that?
Doing what?
It did it
It's
again. It was low, then it was rising.
I don't know. Everything's plugged in.
but well, can we
Craig's
also
point
talk
still
about?
stands. Yeah, what are you gonna say, Daniel?
I was gonna say Lee Shaw's plan. It gets revealed in the second half of the
Yeah,
show.
why don't you talk about it, Daniel? You seem awfully eager to talk about it.
Well, so he essentially swindled his way into back. He essentially swindled the kids for the maps just so he could
We didn't swindle.
then,
He took it.
yeah. And then he left him in the desert. He goes, "Yeah, there's a town over there. Good luck."
Like 10 clicks that way.
And then I'm trying to remember why did that French girl join Lee Shaw?
Something to the effect of, I think she had a sister that died in the Janjira in like the 1999.
Oh, yes, yes. I think that's what it was.
Some weak stuff.
So he takes her, they get more military buddies, and they are now going to different posts, like Monarch posts. They hijack a bunch of like military grade missiles, and his plan is to blow up all the portals.
Yeah, he wanted to close
And
off the portals to the Hollow Earth.
yeah, and he says, "Land." I'm like, when they're like, "Oh, you're trying to kill Godzilla," he's like, "No, I'm trying to help him." It's like, what? But he was just blowing up all the Hollow Earth points. Like,
So, what I don't understand is he has to know that there's other Titan outposts out there, right? He has to know that. Not all of the Titans are in the Hollow Earth. So his plan would be kind of useless because let's say, yeah, it works in theory where he shuts Godzilla down there. Ghidorah's still out there, right? Rodan.
Mothra,
All the other ones that got
Zeusla,
awakened.
Behemoth.
Yeah, that got awakened in King of the Monsters. They're still out there. They're not in the Earth. Or they're not in the Hollow Earth.
Not just that too, but see, this is where the inconsistency. I thought the portals only opened with Titans.
Yeah.
So what exactly is he destroying? More portals can just open up from a new Titan trying to come up.
It'd be like an endless cycle.
Yeah, it's like endless whack-a-mole.
And also too, like, he knew that what Keiko fell down was the Hollow Earth, right? Because that was the point that they were blowing up, and then he fell in. He fell in the same portal that she fell through. So, and he was in the Hollow Earth, and he knew that time worked differently. So, and it was revealed that him and her had a romantic thing going. He obviously loved her. So, him just kind of closing off the Hollow Earth, like you would think that it would almost be drive him mad to try to go back into the Hollow Earth, maybe to try to find her or something like that. Like him just shutting it off is like, and then him and Kate have that moment where he's just like, I'm doing this for her. It's like, as stupid as it would be more plausible for him to be like driven mad to try to go back into the Hollow Earth. Like that would, for some reason, like that would be better character motivation. But no, it's just gonna nuke like a portal so another one opens up. It's like a Hydra. Like you cut off one head, well, two more are just gonna pop up because Titans can come right through.
I was going to quickly say also, I know we talked about. Well, first off, I hated the way Bill Randa got the idea of the Hollow Earth. It was a
Oh, with
little
the
like
ants.
cut in the paper, and he sees an ant go through it. Which again, it's like directly peeing on Kong Skull Island because that's how Randa recruits Houston Brooks. That's how he recruits him because he said he believed in his fringe theory on the Hollow Earth, and Houston Brooks knew more about the Hollow Earth than Randa. It's so stupid how they can mess this up. And apparently I saw somewhere that they had somebody oversee it. It was like a mythology department they had or something. And those people should get
Better
fired.
fire that guy.
They did a terrible job that even idiots like us, clowns you could say, could do a better job. No, not even us, Craig or Daniel. fan fiction can do better than this in at least making everything consistent. Because they did this, these people did a horrible job. They're so bad. These are the idiots that are running the MonsterVerse. God help us.
Like I just don't like the whole thing of Godzilla. Like, all right, giant monsters going around. Like the premise itself is you don't have to really go much further than that. Like you don't have to like overcomplicate things. Like there's a charm to the simplicity of Godzilla and all the other monsters. Like they're giant monsters. They're here. Like, and then I thought like King of the Monsters did such a great job of just like they're an ancient animal ecosystem, and they're just here on the earth. We kind of just have to coexist with them. Like, just leave them there. Like they'll hang out. They'll hibernate. They'll hang out like Godzilla. He'll hang out in the depths of the ocean that no one can go to. Like, I don't know why Adam Wingard had to start this trend, and now everyone's just going along with it of like we have to like overcomplicate, like doing like the Marvel multiverse.
Well, I think the problem is it's not that Godzilla's too simple or whatever. I think the show could have worked. It's just that they massively messed up the continuity. That's stuff you just can't mess up.
Yeah,
And the show could have worked if it just showed the earlier stages of Monarch, if they really
yeah,
wanted to do that. You don't have to have the 2014, 2015 crew running around who are terrible. The only guy who was good was Kentaro. And I like Kurt Russell's character mainly because I like Kurt Russell. He has such a cool voice. I don't know. He's cool.
Kurt Russell looked like he was the only person like actually having fun on the set.
He's the only
Like,
actual skilled actor among the
and
Three
and I
Stooges.
was gonna say, and also his son too did a good job portraying a younger version of him. Like those two seemed like they were the only ones that actually like felt like I guess characters and actually looked like, especially Kurt Russell looks like he was just having fun because he's like, who cares?
But yeah, but to go
But
back to that, the problem is just that they completely whiffed on
well,
the most important things you have to do when you're trying to make a show that ties everything together. It is essential. You
yeah,
cannot mess that up. And they clearly did. They did it with no regard for any of the movies, especially King of the Monsters. They just dumped on that. It's like almost
yeah.
like trying to like erase it.
Well, no, I completely agree. But for this show, just like just keep the continuity. That's like the simplest. That is like the most basic thing when you're tying in a universe. Just keep the continuity.
Honestly, that is the all you have to do really. That's the bare
That's
minimum.
yeah, bare
Like
minimum.
this show is literally a time filler in everyone's waiting for Godzilla
You
X
reminded me
Kong.
too. This uh this show could have been 5 episodes. It felt really
Yeah,
padded out. Like the whole May episode, filler. No one cares about May. It doesn't
That
really
was
add anything to the plot of the overall show.
well, that episode like made me upset because this is just something I hate. Every time there's like a TV show where they talk about like programming,
Oh yeah.
every time, every time those talk about where programming is like a way to express yourself and it's art, and I can tell you it is not. You're writing instructions for a computer to follow. There's nothing artistic about it. Yeah, you can make it look nice. Yeah, you can make it efficient, but you're writing instructions for a computer. It's not art. I hate every time that's in a movie or TV show.
Craig, it's like hacking. You type really fast in movies.
Oh God. Because they're like,
Let me type this quantum realm here. I mean, and I'll hack into all their systems.
yeah, because her boss, the person recruiter, said, oh, you might as well have signed your name on your hacking code. It's like, what? You're writing instructions to hack. Like, unless you have such a weird formatting that only you would ever format your code that way, it could be anybody really. I mean, granted, it'd probably be you because you have the motivation, but they wouldn't recognize it from your code. It's like, oh, it's like your handwriting. It's awful. It makes me cringe every time I see this, and they've really got to stop it.
Hollywood doesn't know what hacking or coding is. They
Which,
think it.
which
They
is fine.
think
You don't
it's
have to
like
know everything.
drawing. Honestly, that's what they treat it like. It's like some kind of expressive art class.
It's fine they don't have to know, but like, could you at least get somebody who knows a little bit to not make you look like an idiot? One more thing in the episode. Um, she was complaining about how she worked for the company and they owned her code, and that's just the business. When you work for a company, your work is kind of theirs. I mean, as annoying as that might be, she's not being treated any differently. She was complaining, "Oh, but you stole my code. It's mine." It's like, no, it's not. Like, are you an adult or are you a child? I mean, if you've worked in the industry, you know that's how it works.
You sign things that essentially waive your rights, and anything that's yours is theirs. Like essentially, right? That's how most
Yeah,
jobs are anyway.
yeah.
I mean, I've never
Especially,
signed anything. I just know it's not mine. I mean,
well,
maybe I did
essentially,
when I started, but like I know it's not mine.
well, especially too if you're gonna work at a high tech company like that. Like,
Yeah, they're definitely not gonna let you walk away with company secrets.
yeah, jeez. No, with your previous point, like you're saying about continuity, I agree. Like that's the major for the show, especially. But just the way the MonsterVerse is going, like I was saying before, like I feel like they're overcomplicating this, like to a whole nother, like adding portals, another world, how Titans function. You know, you need a Titan to get through a portal. It's like, can we just like go back to like you don't need to like complicate or further try to like add these extra details to it to like make it cool. It's like they're giant monsters in an ecosystem. Just keep it that simple. Like they're Godzilla's awesome enough as it is. Like just like they're you know adding Tron mobiles. It's like they're it's just like and then the show just like adds on to it. It's like I feel like that's another problem just with the MonsterVerse in the show taking another step. It's like they're just adding on all this stupid stuff. They're like trying to like over. Not only are they contradicting themselves, but they're trying to like overcomplicate Godzilla and the MonsterVerse, like adding all this stupid stuff, like a paradox, like a parallel like world.
Imagine watching Godzilla 2014, then immediately watching this and be like, "What?"
Yeah,
Well,
because
no, it's going off the deep end.
at least like Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters,
And Kong Skull
with,
Island.
yes, with Kong Song as with a premise like Godzilla and the suspense for belief, like what that brings, like those movies at least made it feel as realistic as I feel like you possibly could with a premise of radioactive monsters in an ecosystem, titans. Like they at least still felt grounded and they weren't as ridiculous as this may be like to say like for a Godzilla movies like they still felt as realistic as you could get or on at least a more realistic take.
Well, the thing is that at least the first three are played fairly straight. Like
Yeah.
the 2014 Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters. Like, there's really nothing too funny that happens in the movies. That I guess you could say that's goofy, and they're all pretty grounded. I mean, King of the Monsters gets a little silly, but it has like because they introduce an alien, right? Ghidorah's an alien. They have that giant underwater base with a Muto's head. A little silly, but it's like it's not too far off the deep end. But then Godzilla vs Kong ruins everything with these anti-Hollow Earth vehicles and this monkey running around super fast wielding an axe. I don't know. It's just garbage. The stupid Hollow Earth just ruined it. I know. I read on Wikipedia the development process of Godzilla vs Kong, and lo and behold, Adam Wingard was heavily involved in the creation of the Hollow Earth. So we have that Billy Goated Chinned loser to thank for this mess we have. And they it's like they keep doubling down on the Hollow Earth. Like they try to make it so important because in their minds that's when they can do just like the craziest things imaginable. Like, oh, you want 15 monsters running around in an army and there's a new hidden orangutan with a dinosaur spine. Like, sure. They're just going crazy and they're getting desperate and it's just a disaster. The MonsterVerse is a disaster now. I remember I was so excited when they Legendary announced it. It was 2010. They announced a new American Godzilla movie. Oh my God, can you believe it? First one in 12 years. And I was moderately happy with 2014. And then another 5 years later comes out King of the Monsters. I was happy with that. And then 2 years later, I was disappointed. I was sad. And every year with these new trash shows coming out, I hate the MonsterVerse now. I just hate it so much.
At
I
least
can't
Godzilla minus
stand it.
one brought you back some joy.
Yeah, I like first off seeing the trailer for Godzilla vs Kong, Godzilla X Kong, and I always end up talking about it. I hate it, and this Monarch show, I hate it. It's
See, I want to go back to because we've been talking a lot about the continuity, but even if we were to disregard all that and could ignore the fact it's a huge mess continuity wise, it's just a bad show.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
There's
that
It's
too,
there's
yeah.
no way around it. I mean, the show is terrible. Everything about the main characters, the search for their father, ends up being a huge waste of time. It's basically a slap in the face that we expected any sort of resolution. Our three protagonists, the Three Stooges, are horrible. Kate, horrible. May, I don't even
Kentaro
know why,
is the only one that's okay because he's
but
the
he's
only one that,
absent.
well, besides the
Yeah.
last couple episodes, but he's the only one that at least actually cares because Kate is, you know, Miss, I'm so mad at him when I'm going to shut him off from my world. At least Kentaro is actively trying to find his father. He actually cares. He
Yes.
has conviction.
Yes, that's why he's the best out of the three.
Yeah.
May, she's just a waste of time. I have no idea why she's even there. I mean, she was complaining throughout like the second half of the show how she keeps wanting to go home.
Then go home.
It's like the writers are saying she's
Well,
useless, but we need her for season two to introduce Apex.
like and the whole thing is they build her up as this like advanced like this talented hacker or programmer, and she uses it for one episode, and like in the backstory where she does her thing with that former company, but she doesn't do anything else that's relative to her skill set.
I know
She's
she's a
just
huge
there
waste.
just to complain and bond with Kate.
Well, I would say more than Bond because apparently there might be a thing now.
Poor Kentaro, man. He loses his
Yeah.
ex-girlfriend to his half-sister.
I just the whole time. The only thing with Kitaro is, did that like actor just realize how bad the show was? Because like midway through filming, because this is the second half of the season, he just had the saddest look on his face in every scene.
Well, he probably knew ahead. He saw the story breakdowns before the episodes 9 and 10 were written, and he just saw that he was not in it. He was barely in it, and he was like,
And what
"Oh,
he did see
great."
was like terrible.
Yeah,
Because he just looks so sad in every scene. He just had that look on his face.
because they probably did some block filming, so there'd be 5 blocks, 2 episodes each block, and then block 5, he just was probably barely there. Honestly, he's probably so mad. Like he probably found that out in block 3. He read the script, and he's like, "What? I'm barely in it." That's why probably he was just phoning it in. I don't blame him.
Because again, the whole premise of the show was finding their father. And again, we get no resolution. They find him in the desert, and they basically just drop the plot after that. Like, what was that, episode 7? They basically they stop pretending to look for their dad.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I just looked at the cast list. Do you know who the French girl was? She
No,
was the sister of Sandra Brody, Joe Brody's wife, and Boring Soldier Man's mother.
that was her.
That was her. Yeah, that was her sister.
Oh,
Wait,
oh, oh,
wait, wait,
wait. Her sister in the show or in the universe.
Yeah, the universe, not the real one.
wait. Who's she sisters to?
Sandra Brody, Joe Brody's wife, Bryan Cranston's character, the one that dies in Janjira in the beginning of the 2014 Godzilla movie.
I missed that entirely.
Well, because Craig said earlier, her motivation, because I think you said, "What's her motivation?" And Craig said, "Well, I believe she mentioned that her sister died in Janjira in 1999." And I looked at the Wikipedia page because I don't remember half the stuff, honestly. I watched this like a couple days ago.
I see. Again, I wouldn't put stuff like that together because I mean, they don't
Uh,
seem anything alike. She's like this elite agent,
well,
and her sister was a scientist.
they also make no use of that. Like you literally, she could have been anyone's sister. Her sister could have been could have been a hobo when Godzilla attacked, and it wouldn't have changed anything. Like that's one of those stupid like, oh, see, like a callback to 24.
Yeah,
It's like
that's like
what?
the kind of stuff Star Wars and Disney does.
Like that's such a
Congratulations, you made a connection to a character who had 2 minutes of screen time in the first 5 minutes of the 2014 movie. Congrats, losers.
I was saying it's a bad show. stuff like this doesn't exactly help their case. But again, Hiroshi, horrible character.
Hmm.
Everything about him is a huge waste of time, and you just the more you find about him, the more like you kind of wish he died.
He really
See,
should have died instead of Lee.
see, honestly, this show for a show that focuses so much on the Hollow Earth, like they barely spend any time in there. Like this show, honestly, if it ended with them stuck in the Hollow Earth, and like the next season would be them trying to get out, that'd probably be better. It wouldn't save the show, but that would probably be like a better setting up than them. Oh, just coming back to Skull Island 2017.
Well, I don't know if they. I don't think they're planning on getting a second season, so I guess they kind of want to have things
Uh,
wrapped up.
I sure hope not.
I can't imagine this getting greenlit. I mean, Apple TV isn't even doing well, right? I mean, I don't know anybody that has it
If they,
besides
you
us
know
for
what,
the
it's one of
show.
those things. If I'm sure if they say they're doing well, they're definitely not. All those companies lie about their streaming service numbers. They
Yeah, those are
lie
important.
because so they don't have to pay actors residuals. That's why they lie about their numbers.
Well, see, they lie both ways. They lie to the actors not to pay residuals when they lie to their investors, saying it's doing a million times better than what it is
Yeah.
doing.
I mean, I know nobody that has Apple TV, so
Like they couldn't have at least had like when Apex comes up to them, they couldn't have at least had like Walter Simmons just at the end for just a quick cameo.
Probably costs too much.
yeah.
The
I was hoping to see Dr. Serizawa. They mentioned his name once. Because essentially, if you have no idea who he is, you would think these people are running Monarch when it's really Serizawa.
Well, essentially, that pairing that woman's running Monarch. She's
Yeah.
doing all this stuff. She sees Godzilla and like doesn't tell anybody. Like, how could you not get your like the most important person involved who's obsessed with Godzilla?
Yeah. Find
That's
someone
right.
that looks at you the way Serizawa looks at Godzilla.
Even when he's about to set off a nuke.
I think also it would have been neat to. I mean, what's his face? Like Kyle Chandler would have no place in the show because he wasn't Monarch at the time, but they could have brought back some of the other Monarch scientists as like little
Well, they could.
cameos.
Well, they could have Kyle Chandler's ex-wife because she doubled down on her work with Monarch.
Yeah, they could have had her. She was a Monarch. They could have had Dr. Rick Stanton, the guy with the coffee mug and King of the Monsters.
Yes.
But this goes to my theory of all these movies where they don't want to play with each other's toys. They want their cast of characters, and their cast of characters are cooler than the other people's cast of characters. When they get to direct their movie, their characters take over and throw out the old characters. They don't want reused toys. They want their own new toys.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Wait, so t- how long were they down in the Hollow Earth? Like act when they were in the Hollow Earth at the end. How long were they actually in the Hollow Earth? Because I know that translates. There were 2 years
Well, it
went
probably
by.
felt like a
3 years.
couple hours.
I was thinking maybe like a day.
Well, because Keiko said she estimated she was down there for 50 something days when it was really like not 57 days. I forget how many years.
It would
Almost
have been like
like
it
50
would have been like
something.
55. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
So
55
I assume
years.
they're
So it was like
probably
as a day, like a year.
maybe.
No, because he was down there for a week. So I guess it's not an exact translation, but
Probably a couple hours. Just say for the sake of it. It felt like they were down there for a couple hours when really it was 2 years.
so is a day
That's the
maybe
thing.
like around 3 years?
So let's talk about this. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. What is the point of the characters, like for the whole show? What is the point of these characters being down there and then they essentially get stuck in time? What
I,
is the point?
my horrible theory is that they were writing Keiko and they loved her so much they want to have her in both timelines. Which I think she
Okay.
started out okay, but she became horrible by the end of it.
Because because realistically, if the U.S. like and like governments got wind that like these creatures were coming out of these portals in like the late 50s, early 60s, they probably would have just blown them up. They probably would not have been like, yeah, go ahead and explore down there, unless it was like, yeah, like they didn't even give it like, oh, we could pull like there could be untapped resources down there. It was just like, yeah, let's just go explore. Like they couldn't even like given that motivation, like, oh, there might be untapped resources down there. Like who knows? Like we're in the the Cold War was going on. Like they didn't even give that kind of a motivation to go down there.
Because what I don't understand is like I said, what is the point of the time jump and them being down there and essentially introducing time travel? Kind of, not really time travel because they're not jumping from point A to point B like directly.
So I know I made my little joke about keeping Keiko, but I also wonder too if it's their way of explaining Kurt Russell not aging. Like they went through all that effort to explain why he didn't age, why he
Well,
looks
I knew
good for a
that from the
90-year-old.
start because they made it a point where they kept on calling this guy 90, and
No,
I
no.
honestly wouldn't have batted an eye if they didn't mention it because yeah, the years wouldn't make any sense.
I wonder
Yeah,
if this is like in the writer's room, like, he should be 90. I got a great idea to explain why he looks so good for his age.
I mean maybe, but imagine if anyone finds out about this, they'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna spend a couple weeks down there, and like people would be taking advantage of that.
That's
Like,
the thing.
I
Like I
bet
know.
the people in the 1930s, like late 20s, early 30s in America would love to have gone down there. Skip the whole Depression and war. Are you kidding me?
If you want to wait for the weed to come out, you just go down there.
I don't know. It's opening up.
Well,
They're opening up a can of worms that they don't even
well,
realize what they're doing.
well.
They probably
That's
think
what
it's cool.
That's what Craig was saying. Like the like are following these group of people. Like there's no resolution. I get it. The show is meant to unnecessarily tie in a universe that doesn't really need tying any details tied in. Everything you could just keep explaining things in the next movie if you wanted to further elaborate. Like you don't need a time show, but if you are, there's no because even like they give up on trying to find Hiroshi. Like, well, like that gets taken over by then trying to stop Lee. So like the whole Hiroshi thing has no resolution because then it's just like all's forgiven when they come out of the Hollow Earth. Um, Keiko, like there was no reason for her being alive because there was no resolution really. It was just and then
Well, it's
like
also ridiculous that she's even alive. Like, she gets pulled in by a bunch of bugs that should have eaten her to death, but somehow she survives not just that and the fall, and survives in that area for like
that's another thing is
57 days.
they needed like and it was already established. I know this is before it, but in this, the Godzilla X Kong, you needed hyper advanced material, and then already in the show before Keiko is established as alive, they needed as advanced as technology that they sent Lee Shaw and that group down in. Like they had to go into it like with a container, essentially like a something that you'd send someone to space with.
Well,
So
exactly. So
how is
they
she?
crash and survive the impact, and she just falls. Doesn't get eaten by bugs. Nothing. Somehow she survives. She's just so awesome. She survives all that. She's just so awesome, guys.
Well, and then too, like and then they when they do crash, it's like the big bad Titan is the Ion Dragon. Like that thing was tiny. That thing is smaller than Rodan. Like and then they set it up like Godzilla and him are gonna have this like big fight. Like come on. I know obviously Godzilla wrecks him, but like that was that was your big ending was like you couldn't even had like you some big bad Titan down there. It was just that little thing that for some reason was down there when they landed.
Well, that was the disappointing thing about the show. There were like basically no new Titans introduced. There's the Ion Dragon, that ice thing. That's basically it, right?
Well, and then you had that, yeah, and then we had that boar, whatever the
That,
hell
that
that
doesn't
thing
count. That
was.
doesn't count.
You know, real creative guys just stick a bunch of like wood coming out of a boar. And then they had like the spider thing that was already established in Kong Skull Island in the beginning, and he fought like a just a giant crab for like 10 seconds. And then what else was there? Was that it? Were those like the only new were those the like only Titans?
That's why it's so disappointing. A show about, you know, the founding of Monarch and discovering Titans. They seem to have no Titans
Yeah.
in the show.
Yeah.
And people could say, "Oh, it's the budget." I mean, come on. They could do stuff. You don't have to actually show them. At least you could show like them in the dark and they don't have to have everything these fights in broad daylight. It's lazy. They want to focus on their horrible cast of characters.
Yeah, because we all knew that Godzilla was going to be. is not going to be a part of the show. He was a selling point, which is fine. But at least like bring in like at least make the Titans like I would say like 30 to 40% of the show. Like how the hell are the Titans in a Titan-based show like only 1% of it?
Well, the show isn't about the Titans. It's more about Monarch, the creation, and I
Yeah, but
guess
Titans have to be involved with that.
they're involved, all right, just not a lot.
I mean, none. I mean, from what we see in the show, there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, 40%, like, Godzilla has never been even in a movie for 40%. So for a whole show, like 20% would be fine if the monsters are in there.
I was just throwing out numbers, but it can't be like 1% of the show.
Yeah, it can't be
Well, my idea
whatever this
wasn't the fact
was.
that you have to see the Titans, but you'd have to feel the effects. Like the Ion Dragon episode, I feel like was probably a better episode structure to follow, where you can see, oh, there's these stories of this dragon in the sky. You see the law, and you don't have to actually see the Titan that leaps up, but the Titan feels present the whole episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like
imagine
when
they
they
have
went
to
to
navigate a terrain and they know that giant titan is around them. Like they can't make too much noise, they have to move quickly, out of sight, or the titan will come after them.
Just something, because all these, it's just a huge disappointment for a show about, again, the founding of Monarch, which is about studying Titans. There seems to be very little in the show.
the only episode that even remotely did that was the when they were in Alaska with the it was
It was like the
titled
third one, I think.
yeah, it was called the it's like Frost Arc. Like that was the only episode where they actually like blended it. Like the characters actually felt like they were like in danger, and they utilized the Titan in a surrounding that they're out of their element. And like you have some creativity where it's like it's drawn to heat, so they're stuck in the cold. They can't utilize heat really, or the Titan's coming after them. Like that was the only episode that felt like, oh, okay, like you're actually kind of using the premise to its strength instead of, hanging out with knockoff Seth Rogen, the guy Tim, was that his name? The
Hmm.
bumbling idiot.
Yeah, I don't want to even talk about that guy. I could care less about him.
But well, and another thing too with the Three Stooges, not Kentaro, but Kate and May, like for people that knew so little, they like one they were flip flopping constantly, and two like they're supposed to be like these people that are the driving force and we get behind, and like they just come off as like um not only arrogant but like I'm trying to find the right word.
Anxious?
Yes, like they're just so not likable. Like they're trying to make it like, oh, like come on guys, like they're trying to motivate this government agency to do the right thing and rectify your wrongs, and it's like they just come off as like snobby and like just ugh. Like couldn't Godzilla have just attacked them again and just wiped them all out? God.
And I know we talked about this, Craig, in our last episode on Monarch, but again, the biggest sin this show commits, aside from what we've already hammered down the continuity,
Besides existing,
is their portrayal of Monarch, where Monarch is like they're trying to make Monarch the bad guys, even though in the all the other movies they're trying to do good. Like Monarch is trying to stop the Titan outbreak in Godzilla King of the Monsters. They were literally trying to stop Emma from releasing or releasing Ghidorah. They were there in Antarctica. They have all these resources to try to help people. And I know this was in our last episode, Craig, again, but I hated the line that Kurt Russell said, like, let them fight. That was your best idea.
Yeah.
Completely misses the point of what the line was about. Completely misses it. I hate it. I hate the show. It's ran by a bunch of goons. It's terrible.
well, also the insult to that line doesn't even make sense. I know, obviously, like, missing the point of it, but also too, like in 2014 Godzilla, there wasn't portals were and an endless supply of Titans. Like the Titans were limited on Earth. They were just there, and you know, so
Well,
you know,
you start talking about Monarch being incompetent. And I don't know what this, I forgot about this until I just started talking, where I forget what episode it was, but it was when they're in Seattle and did the fake emergency broadcast. And for some reason, instead of Serizawa addressing being the PR guy for Monarch, they have that woman
Yeah.
address
Because,
as be the
again,
face of Monarch. I'm like,
in King of the
is she in
Monsters,
charge of Monarch all of a sudden?
yeah,
Did I miss something?
it was him and Dr.
Well,
Graham that were getting grilled by the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, because they were the leads of it, the head of
Yeah.
it.
well,
I
no,
don't never
Craig.
heard of a
Craig, she
company.
wasn't the head of it because Kurt Russell. That they kept making jokes about her only being the deputy director, something like that.
I know, but like, why is
Yeah, yeah.
she going public as the face of Monarch?
Realistically, they just didn't want to bring back Ken Watanabe for whatever reason.
Probably costs too much money, but that's why you don't have the show set in the modern day. That's what you have set in the past, where you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah. Because, okay, so I have done some reading. There are some graphic novels that serve as prequels to the 2014 movie, and I believe there's a prequel to King of the Monsters. And in the prequel for the 2014 movie, I could have sworn I saw something that said Dr. Serizawa's father or one of his relatives like founded Monarch.
I did see that, but I think that's non-canon
Yeah, now
now.
that's not a canon for this stupid show. I don't know, that's what I remember reading about that.
Yeah, I saw that too, which I think could have been interesting, seeing his father help
Or
found Monarch before
or
maybe
I think
Lee
the
showed up.
character's name was like
or
Eiji Serizawa, which is a nod to Eiji Tsuburaya, who helped do the monster suit fighting. He's also the guy that created
or
Ultraman.
also too, what they could have done if to talk about Serizawa's relatives, they could have also another one since they were bringing back Apex. They could even for a cameo, they could have had his son Ren Serizawa involved.
Oh God.
As dumb as dumb as
That's
a
gonna be
tie-in
season
as
two,
that
buddy. Season two.
as dumb as a tie-in as that would have been, at least that it keeps continuity.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
would argue it doesn't. You kind of forget that Ren Serizawa was in Godzilla vs Kong.
Well, Colin, that's not true because they did a callback to Brody's wife, and that's her sister in the show.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But at least she talked. You knew her name. If you didn't hear Walter Simmons mention his name in the beginning of Godzilla vs Kong, you had no idea who this guy is. He just shows up, he gets electrocuted to death, and dies. Yeah, this show is trash.
The MonsterVerse has died.
Yeah, I'm all for the Japanese movies now. That what a resurgence they've had with Godzilla minus one, which is still doing well. Almost, I think it has hit 100 million domestic or worldwide, so that's very good for that movie. Very happy for Godzilla minus one. It deserves all the acclaim it's getting. Just like how I wish this show was getting all the disdain it rightfully deserves.
I swear, I think I see contrarians trying to praise the show.
I think it's people that know it's MonsterVerse related, so they'll eat the slop up. Because I literally, and I know like I have I guess you could say, an unholy amount of hate for Adam Wingard and all the stuff he touches in the MonsterVerse. I can recognize that. But I seriously cannot sit there and listen to people praise this show, knowing the problems it has that are so glaringly obvious. You want to talk about like unlikable characters in King of the Monsters and how boring they are, you could say. These characters are so much worse. And on top of that, they're in it more than the human characters were in King of the Monsters. Now, obviously, 10 episodes compared to a 2-hour movie, right? But even like percentage wise and how the episodes are like formatted, they're just in every scene and it's unbearable and you make them so unlikable. So I don't want to hear anyone ever say King of the Monsters has bad human characters when this trash is sitting right in front of you with 10 episodes. I don't want to hear it.
Apologize to 2014 Godzilla.
Apologize to Gareth Edwards. Apologize to Boring Soldier Man. Apologize to Michael Dougherty because everyone wanted him out, and then we got this loser Adam Wingard getting a sequel.
You
Perhaps
hate
I
to see it.
treated
You really
Godzilla
hate to see it.
2014 too harshly. Yeah.
Well, any final
No,
thoughts? Because I'm just like
the
gonna get
more
my
this stuff
blood
comes
boiling.
out, man, the more 2014 and King of the Monsters just age so much better. Especially 2014. Like looking back, it has aged so well compared to all this.
Because I think what made that movie age so well is that they took it seriously, and there's nothing wrong with Godzilla being a little silly. And again, we talked about this, I believe, in the Godzilla -1 review where we talked about the trailer for Godzilla X Kong. Silliness matters in context. The show era being silly was fine because that was the '60s. Had limited resources. They're doing the best they could of what they had. This stuff being silly is just ridiculous. It's not even like in the same vein as how it
Well,
was in the '60s.
in the Showa era, they were being silly because they were targeting for children.
Yes, that
This
too.
is being silly because they think this is stupid. I think what we're working on is stupid. It doesn't deserve the respect it deserves. It doesn't deserve this respect I wanted to give it, so I'm going to make it stupid.
Not only
Which
that,
is,
Greg, the Showa era also had budgets being reduced movie by movie. That's why they had so much stock footage. They couldn't
well,
even make a full movie.
well, not even that. I was just thinking like the tone of the movie where they
Oh
were.
yeah, yeah. It was
It was
targeted towards
Well,
children.
and
yeah.
also too,
These
if you're
are more of a general audience, and they have no respect. They don't care what they're working. They just see it as a quick buck. Yeah, whatever. Who cares?
and they're also comparing a lot of the when they try to justify the ridiculousness or the silliness, they also compare like where you're like, do people realize like they're comparing them usually to the worst of the Godzilla movies, like the ones that are not that are typically like forgotten. Like the best parts of those movies are like Godzilla drop kicks Megalon
Yeah,
because the rest of the movie like so when people compare them
yeah.
to like,
Because the
oh
rest of the movie, these three people are trapped in a construction truck that are dangling by a ravine or something.
yeah. No, but so people like when they're like, "Oh, this Godzilla had this," like you're usually comparing them to the lower grade Godzilla movies, the ones that you enjoy because you love Godzilla more and like a nostalgic factor. But if you're gonna go objectively from films, like those are usually the worst ones.
I think people should definitely apologize to Gareth Edwards because I will apologize to him. I will not apologize to him for being a terrible director actor or an actor director. He does not know how to communicate with actors when he's directing them. Everyone is so bored in all of his movies. I will not defend him on that, but at least the crafting and the shooting of the movie masterfully done.
But his scaling in that was
Yeah,
awesome.
he did a great job directing
He
it.
he 100%. I like even when I look back on that, like he did such a great job with the scaling of Godzilla and the shots of even though he teased Godzilla too much, I will say like the Golden Gate Bridge scene or when he's in Honolulu and they
Yeah.
shoot the flares and he's walking like he like and like he did such a good job with making it feel like, oh, like this is how it would actually be like if Godzilla was roaming.
Yeah, I think the first three MonsterVerse directors all did a very good job directing the movie. And now we don't have that anymore. So everyone should apologize.
I'm not going to apologize because I still like it. But I wanted to point out, I think it was the ninth episode where there was like this hard cut to like some rap music playing or something. I don't know if you
I don't
remember.
remember that.
Oh, it was when
Oh, the
that
lady
one
hacker. The lady, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where
yeah the
she
one
was
in
like, I
Monarch.
found the signal. I remember when they started playing that, I thought something was wrong with Apple TV Plus, and I had to
I
pause it, and I
I
closed
thought
it.
that too. I thought that too. I had to like it's like
Is there another
is
tab
something
open?
Well, I thought like someone like hacked my Apple TV, so I closed it and I opened it
it
up,
was
and
Meg Craig.
Yeah.
that's what I get for making fun of her. It was such a jarring cut. I don't know why people do stuff like that because I legitimately thought something was wrong with my computer.
So with that being said, do you guys have any final thoughts on
I do.
Monarch
I wanted to.
Legacy? Yes.
What do you think's gonna happen for season two?
I could care less. I really don't
I
care.
think just quickly, I think season two, because they showed him at the end with the stupid Kong cameo, it's gonna be focused on them with Kong and Skull Island.
And
It's
probably
gonna like
Apex.
yeah, and probably leading up to the events of Godzilla. Like they're gonna skip over King of the Monsters, even though this is season two will be set before it, but it'll be more focused on Kong and like him leading up to Godzilla vs Kong.
Yeah.
And you watch because they'll probably drop something. No, no, oh no, it's gonna come out after. Never mind. No, no, they could tie it in. Something about the villains coming up in Godzilla X Kong.
Hmm.
Maybe do a
Because
stupid mention of them.
the only thing I can think of, I guess with any sort of certainty, is the fact that there'll probably be no stuff in the past, except maybe like a flashback here and there in the episodes. But we're not
Yeah,
going to have
it'd
like,
be modern
these,
day.
which is of course the worst part of the show.
Wait, so did they definitely end up on Kong Skull Island?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Kong's
remember,
there.
So
there's also the
wait, so
storm there.
so this whole time they moved Kong off the island.
No, he's on Skull Island.
No, and I'm saying they ended up that's where they got out of, right? At the end of the episode. Did they end up on Skull Island? Is that where they got out of their portal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Godzilla vs Kong getting him off the island was stupid to like go down to the Antarctic to get him into a portal when apparently there was a portal on Skull Island. They could have just moved Kong into there to
Nothing
send him
makes
back to the Hollow
sense.
Earth.
Nothing makes sense.
That
stop
was just
asking
something
questions.
They know there's been like 2 hours of this, or almost 2 hours.
I'm
Nothing
short
makes
circuiting.
sense.
I'm short circuiting.
Well, to keep it brief, I hated this show. I absolutely hated it. I don't like where the MonsterVerse is going. I used to be a fan of the MonsterVerse, now I hate it. Craig?
Oh, it's terrible. It's a complete waste of time. Like nothing in the show is worth watching. You're better off just watching the 5-minute video of Godzilla scenes and then pretend the show does not exist because there's nothing worth watching.
Daniel?
It's horrible. Absolute trash.
I
Thanks,
really am
Adam.
trying to think of something positive. I can't find
Thanks.
anything positive
Thanks.
about the show.
Thank you, Adam Wingard.
Well, he didn't do anything with the show.
No, but he started this.
Oh,
He
yeah, he
opened.
did.
He dare I say, did he open the portal for this,
Oh,
Colin?
boo. Well, with that being said, I cannot wait to watch Godzilla X Kong. I'm sure I'm going to hate it. But with that being said, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin,
I'm Craig.
Daniel.
and we will see you next time.